ChannelPro Weekly, episode 101, live. I am Ed Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host of this fine audio program. Joining us this week and every week, the man of the hour, the one who has seen the goats and attended minor league hockey, executive editor Rich Freeman.
Back home in Seattle. Is there any particular hour I am the man of?
You are the man of, we'll say, 4 a.m. to 5 a.m.
That
pretty
sounds
good.
You can
about
have
right.
that one. That's yours.
That's a good hour. You know, still early, but you know, some people are awake.
Okay.
Also joining us, a special guest, a very cool guy. I'll let him introduce and tell you a little bit about what he does, but please welcome Herman Pool.
How's it going, guys? It's good to be on here, man. I'm glad to see. I haven't been able to see Rich all year long.
You haven't bumped into him anywhere, not at any show?
You know what? We saw each other where?
So most recently, and this was actually just last month, I saw you at the last ASCII event.
Seattle, yeah.
Yeah. So and that was kind of quick. And then before that, though, I think it was the first ASCII event of the year. So we have not seen each other very much this year.
No, usually I'm on the road all year long. I've been doing a lot of different things. So I'm Herman Pool. I'm the president of Vertical Action. I'm also the president of the Association of Computer Repair Business Owners. Vertical Action is a marketing company that helps IT business owners get noticed and make money. And I do a lot of other things, like own a video game store and an arcade, and we develop VR software. But mainly today, we're going to talk about the IT stuff. So I had an MSP for 25 years, and I help other people, you know, with what I know. And that's what you guys do. You know, that's why I love seeing Rich and the rest of you guys over at ChannelPro is, you know, you got so much great information for us, and you bring me up to date every time I see you.
And Herman, you have a book out there.
I sure do.
I have a copy of it floating around here somewhere, and I was going to hold it up, and I'll find it at some point. But
there you go. How about this?
There you go.
Yeah, 1 Hour Marketing. There it is.
1 Hour Marketing by Herman Pool. Yeah, wrote 1 Hour Marketing 2 years ago. It's a great book. It was re-released this year in November. And, you know, it's a book on marketing. It helps you learn how to market or write a marketing plan in 1 hour. And it gives you some really easy steps to do that. And it's really helped out a lot of people. And we've seen a lot of success with it. So we're glad to have it out there. Thanks for bringing it up.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're super glad to have you here. And we're going to have another special guest here later in the show. Rich, you want to tell us who's going to pop on and join us?
Yes, we're going to be doing a live interview segment. Longtime podcast listeners are familiar with the recorded interviews that we've been doing since way back when. But this week we're going to have a live interview guest. His name is Michael Fraser, and he is the CEO of a recently launched company called Refactor, which does some really interesting work in terms of enabling MSPs and other people to get environments in public clouds like Azure and AWS up and running quickly. It's an automation and orchestration engine. Michael will do a much better job than I can of explaining what the platform does and what's cool about it. But looking forward to talking with him, and then we can talk as well. He just recently won a very interesting and rewarding prize at the ConnectWise IT Nation show a few weeks ago last month, and Michael can tell us about that too.
Super cool. Well, I think our time with Herman is limited. Am I getting that right?
Well, we can go. You know, we'll go until we can, man. You know, I've got that little issue with the with the other story, but you know, we've got time, man. All
right, good. So, Rich, I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. A lot have changed since episode. Well, not a lot has changed since episode 100. That was just last week. But do you want to tell people about some of the fun and exciting things you got to do while you were out here? So, for those who didn't catch episode 100 yet, Rich was here live in person for that when we debuted kind of our new video format that we're going to be doing this live, and he was here in the Midwest. I got to spend some time with me and my family. Rich, you want to give us some highlights of things that you did, things that you saw other than goats?
Yeah, it was an awesome trip. It really was. So I flew out there on a Wednesday, and Thursday we did the podcast. So I mean, you know, it was work on Wednesday, it was work on Thursday, and then we had some fun. We went into downtown Chicago. Matt lives in a community about like an hour and a half or so outside of
about an hour and a half.
So we took a train. We went into Chicago. We had a great lunch. We went to this relatively recently opened place called the American Writers Museum. Went out to Navy Pier. We did the Ferris wheel out there. I'm in Chicago. I wanted to do deep dish pizza. We did that. It was awesome. The next day, what was that?
I said Chicago's one of my favorite places. Navy Pier pizza.
Oh yeah,
you're talking my kind of language there, fellas.
It was a fun day. And then Saturday, the whole gang. So Friday it was just Matt and me in Chicago, but his whole family took me out to Wisconsin. Was it Monroe, Wisconsin?
Yep.
Home of the second oldest brewery in America, Minhas. And so we did a brewery tour and a tasting. And I'll just say it's like a screaming deal, basically. I can't even remember what we paid, but they tour you around the brewery, and then you get about 20 minutes to taste whatever you want. So a very good time. And then there's this really great sort of town square in this little town, Monroe, and we had a really nice lunch there. Drove into Rockford, Illinois. We went to a hockey game. Boy, I wish I had my toboggan hat here. I got a free hat. I mean, this was a pretty great weekend. So thank you, Matt, for being such a wonderful host.
It was a hell of a lot of fun. And Rich, I can say that you are probably the only person in Seattle that has an official Rockford Ice Hogs toboggan hat.
I think you were right.
It sounds like I came on the wrong week. I should have been with you guys last week.
Yeah.
It was a good time, a lot of fun, and my kids really had a great time, and I sent Rich a bunch of pictures last night. Finally got around to sending him those, and I realized I didn't get like a single photograph of him with me or with my wife or my kids or like anything like that. So I'm like, I completely failed. You're just gonna have to come back out.
Yeah.
That's how you solve that.
So yeah, lots of fun stuff. Herman, sorry you couldn't be here for that, but I guess I need to hear this story because I kind of came in at the tail end of it. Something about video games.
So you see all those classic
and the guy trying to sell them back to you. Like, what?
Yeah. So all those classic games behind you. I own a store that sells those. It's my wife's store. We're partners in it. So here in Huntsville, Alabama, we have the largest classic arcade in Alabama. We also buy, sell, and trade games like GameStop. My hobby is businesses, and so this is another business I get to run. We had a storage building behind the arcade that was holding some of our games. Someone broke into that storage building, stole about $10,000 worth of items. Today, just a few minutes ago, I get a call from the police, or not from the police, from my store manager, who tells me, hey, they've brought the games back in and they're trying to sell them back to us. So right now, the police are chasing this little car around, trying to find this guy with a car full of my games. So if I look a little distracted every so often, or I look at my phone, I'm just looking to see if the detective has called me back to tell me we've got my stuff back. I do have a box full of Atari 2600 games at my stores, but the rest of the games I need back. He didn't quite bring in the whole $10,000 worth.
What? Amazing.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So there's a lesson in this for everybody, right? So you might be thinking, man, I'm an IT guy. I'm watching this show because I want to see IT stuff. But listen, as a business owner, you have to have processes in place so that your staff can handle things when you're not around. This is an example of an emergency where we actually have process for shoplifting, process for, if somebody's on site with a gun, which is horrible, you have to do that kind of thing, but we do have that process, for all sorts of stuff. But we don't have one for a guy coming back to sell you the thing he just stole from you. So we're going to have to, we have to work on that now. So we actually have the guy's ID, his phone number, because that's the stuff we take when we buy games. And so we, I guess we got to work on this process.
He not only brought the stolen property back, he also showed you and let you or your staff take a picture of his driver's license.
Oh yeah. I mean, I almost want to show you all right here, but I have his ID. God knows, maybe he's watching, so I'm not going to do it. But this guy's cooked. He if he is not the thief, he knows the thief, and God bless us. As business owners, we get really stressed out about a lot of things in life, right? And this has been a big lesson for me because what are you going to do when $10,000 worth of your product is stolen, right? I kind of had to let it go and say the cops are going to handle this and everything's going to work out. And fortunately, it looks like today, I don't have all my stuff back yet. I do have my 2,600 games. Those are mine. That's my personal collection that was stolen out of there. So I'm glad to have that back. But I had to learn to let go, right? We tell people that the way to make your business run is to outsource, right? Well, I've got to let go of this problem. I have no control over it. I had to suck that up and understand I have no control over this problem. I need to chill out. I need to let the police handle their business. I need to leave my staff alone. Don't hound them about it, and just keep trucking along like nothing ever went wrong. And, it's paid off. We've had a fantastic week, and, it's Christmas time. We're making plenty of money and it'll make a lot of people happy playing our video games. So, we'll focus on that. And then, I'll focus on doing things like sitting down with you guys.
Awesome. Now, and you run a classic arcade too, so you have like a lot of old stand-up arcade machines and stuff.
Yeah, so like the old Donkey Kongs, Pac-Mans. I own 300 machines right now, 305, something like that. And then our store has 70 machines in it. We also have VR. Basically, I've taken all of my hobbies and them into one store. So we have virtual reality. We have classic arcade games. You pay $12, you play all day on the classic arcade games. You play per minute for VR. It's a lot of fun. And we have the
that's cool. I happen to actually live near the largest classic arcade like that, where you like pay one fee and they have all of the machines there set up that you can play all day.
Close to Galloping Ghost.
That is the one, the Galloping Ghost. I've been there many times. That is an amazing place. It is huge. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, he's about to not be the largest. I know somebody who has a few more games than him and a larger building that's about to open up.
Oh, cool. Well, you know what? It's good to have competition, right?
Yeah. It's a close-knit community. It's good stuff. Nobody gets upset about that kind of thing.
Now, you've got about 300 machines. You've actually rebuilt, restored a number of those, right?
Oh, yeah. So I'm in, like you guys, I'm in IT, right? So I've opened a new IT company and we manage arcade rebuilds. So pretty much it's the same thing. A lot of these games actually have old computers in them. A lot of them have component level repair that need to be done. We do woodworking. We do circuit board repair, all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to spend the time doing that. And I'll tell you the reason I did it. I ran my IT company for 25 years. I've run my marketing company for 7 years, and I didn't really ever take the time to do something I enjoyed because I was so busy working, and it just stressed me out so much. And you've known me for years, and I fly around a lot, right? Like not fly around a lot. I bounce off the walls a bit. That's not really the case anymore. I took this last year and really focused on learning how to not worry about every single thing and understanding that not every single thing that happens in a business is a firehouse emergency. Very cool.
All right. Well, I could talk about video games and stuff all day long, and that's a fascinating thing. As you can see from the collection kind of behind me, where some of my classic games are, that's a big interest for me. But we have an audience, and we have guys who want to know the news, Rich. And there's not a lot of news this week, but there is some. And this is always kind of the slow time of the year because around the holidays there's not a whole lot of stuff going on. But we do have a few stories and a few things to talk about, especially some pretty cool stuff in the next segment. But Kaseya, Rich, they've got something.
Yeah. Now, so there might not be a lot of news this week because we're right on top of the holidays. But the one big story is really, really big. Kaseya has acquired IT Glue. Now, IT Glue we've talked about them a number of times just within recent episodes on the podcast and likened them basically to the Kleenex of documentation in the managed services world. The name has become almost synonymous among MSPs with documentation. That's why IT Glue and Kaseya actually were both on our ChannelPro All-Stars list for 2018. Now, in March, and we talked about this in the podcast too, there was an alliance agreement announced between Kaseya and IT Glue where they were going to collaborate on a source code level, basically, to embed a version of the IT Glue documentation platform within Kaseya's RMM system. So anyone using that RMM tool was going to have access from inside that interface that they're working in all day to all of the IT Glue documentation that they need. And obviously that speaks to kind of a special relationship between these two companies. So pretty much from March on, there has been enormous speculation throughout the industry. You know, will Kaseya eventually purchase IT Glue? And, you know, I probably interviewed Fred Vacola, the CEO of Kaseya, about half a dozen times since then. I was at the IT Glue GlueCon event in September. I spoke with Chris Day, the CEO and founder of IT Glue. And needless to say, anytime I asked them this question, they said what they had to say in that situation, which is, no, you know, we're working together really well, but there's no acquisition coming. Turns out that not only has Kaseya acquired IT Glue, but they have basically been on a track to do this for 2 years. So Fred Vacola and Chris Day met one another about 3 years ago. Fred was immediately impressed by Chris and the company and the product and the culture there. And about 2 years ago, these two companies signed a deal. Coming out of that deal, Kaseya immediately acquired a controlling interest, quote unquote. They became sort of majority owner of IT Glue quietly. Nobody knew about this. And then this agreement sort of laid out a series of milestones. And for legal reasons, they can't really get into the details around this. But the agreement laid out a series of steps and milestones that the companies were going to go down. And there were exit clauses and so on in there. But the goal was that approximately 2 years after signing the deal, IT Glue would become wholly owned by Kaseya. Chris Day, who has done an amazing job building that company, would take his undoubtedly substantial check, leave the company, and you know he's an entrepreneur. He's going to go off and do something else. We don't know yet what, but he's going to go build another company. So he's not sticking around. The rest of the senior leadership team is, and this has all been in the works for about 2 years.
Now, Rich, if I were to go back in time and listen to the episode where we were talking about this,
Yeah,
I think we said, "Why the hell aren't they just buying them?"
but you're probably right.
I think we were a little confused by that they would do such an integration, and I think we at least surmised that this was going to happen.
Yeah, this is not an enormous shock. And if anything, so for months and months, I assumed this was happening. It was right around September when I was talking to Chris and that I started to think, well, maybe it isn't going to happen. I don't know. Maybe they're telling me the truth when they say this isn't coming. But yeah, it's not an enormous shock for this to be happening now. Now, you know, IT Glue has an enormous user base out there. Tremendous number of MSPs rely on the tool. Most of them, I'm going to say, are not also using the Kaseya product. So I've got to believe, I haven't spoken to a lot of MSPs this week. I've got to believe there are a lot of IT Glue users out there who are very nervous about this. And obviously they're very aware of this at Kaseya, and this is why they made a point of emphasizing in the interview I did with Fred yesterday that we are all about openness and interoperability. We 80%, I think he said, of the IT Glue customer base is using products from other companies other than Kaseya. And the wording he used at one point was that if we ever did anything to force people to use Kaseya if they want IT Glue, it would be, quote unquote, our death warrant. It would destroy Kaseya. So he is absolutely adamant that they are not going to be doing anything to compromise interoperability. And that's the company line from Kaseya right now.
Herman, do you think that company line is going to remain? Or do you think eventually they're going to push people?
Do that. What a great entry point for a user that's never dealt with Kaseya before. Maybe they're using IT Glue. They see the integration. Maybe they make the jump to Kaseya. I think it's a great. Kaseya's been around for a long time, and a lot of people. It's funny. A lot of the newer MSPs don't even know who they are, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's like reintroducing them to the industry with this IT Glue move, and it was a really brilliant move. I think that I don't think people really need to be worried about it, right? I mean, certainly not in the near future. Like they said, they'll kind of get slaughtered if people, their user base would revolt, and they've made this huge investment. So I don't think they'd want to tick off their user base too much. Eventually, I think, when you acquire something like that, of course, eventually there'll be some kind of change that not everybody agrees with. But, for now, they've certainly said out loud, hey, listen, we know this is not the direction we want to go. It wouldn't be fair to the user base, wouldn't be good for the user base. And I think that's great that they've actually come out and said that. It would be really tough for them to walk that back early on.
Yeah. Now, Rich, we talked a lot about that IT Glue was working on a lot of deep integrations, not only with Kaseya, but the line at the time was that IT Glue was going to try to embed themselves at a much deeper level in a lot of different products. Do you think now that Kaseya is the one holding the company now, do you think that that integration level is going to stop, or that those efforts to be more deeply integrated with other products is going to kind of stop, and they're just going to focus on being integrated with the Kaseya product as a selling tool to make the Kaseya product more attractive?
That's a really interesting question. And what's interesting about it isn't so much what Kaseya will do as what other companies will do. So, and this, it came up yesterday in my interview with Fred. It came up in September when I was talking with Chris Day. Both of them said that, yes, there is this really special deep integration between IT Glue and Kaseya right now, but we are willing, this is their position, so maybe this looks differently to the ConnectWises and Dattos of the world, but they said we are willing to do that exact same level of integration with anybody else. And we have, in fact, approached all of the other major RMM PSA vendors and offered to integrate with them at that kind of a level. And everybody has heard this. Everybody has expressed some degree of interest. Nobody has acted on the offer yet. And so, to your question, are there going to be deeper integrations with other platform vendors? I think to some extent that's going to be up to the other platform vendors. They're going to have to think now, do I want to create a deeper connection between my platform and a competitor's product, essentially, IT Glue? It'll be very interesting to see. And then, to that point, it also becomes interesting to see, is there now suddenly a gold rush? It does Passportal, which also does documentation, suddenly become an acquisition target. Does IT Boost, which does documentation, become an acquisition target? Do these other platforms acquire their own products to counter this, or do they kind of acknowledge that for the moment IT Glue seems to be the solution of choice, and create integrations of their own?
Maybe they'll say, well, now IT Glue is owned by a competitor. Maybe they'll start to work on building their own documentation solutions to compete with it. Well, which I guess that's the point, right? That competition is good.
Yeah, competition is good, but I do think that other businesses have already kind of shown what they will do in this situation. They don't tend to. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give that link into Kaseya. It did when it was IT Glue, but when it's Kaseya, if you've got an RMM tool, you don't necessarily want to be introducing your people into a whole new ecosystem that has an RMM alternative. I'll be interested to see where that goes. I would bet, kind of Rich hit on it. You're going to see some acquisition happen, and your people are out there looking right now. They're shopping. And I would bet 3 to 6 months we're going to see somebody, some major player with. I tell you what. Here's the thing: you want to make some money? Write a documentation platform right now, a bunch of users by March, and you'll be a millionaire.
Christmas project for all you fine folks out there.
It's a side project.
Yeah.
Hop on Upwork and hire you a couple of foreign developers. You'll be fine.
So Rich, do you think there's anything else in this story here other than, I mean, again, I don't think we're shocked that Kaseya ended up finally just bringing it in-house, but is there anything else that we're kind of missing here? But I haven't heard this interview that you did. So what else are we missing?
Oh gosh, let's see what else might have been in that interview that I have not mentioned here. One of the things that I was interested in, and we didn't get into this much in the conversation, was just what is the future of the integration between Kaseya's RMM and PSA and other products and the IT Glue system. And, like I said, we didn't discuss that a whole bunch. The one thing that Fred said that will be sort of exclusive to Kaseya is the interface. He said the back end stuff, he's willing to integrate with anyone who is interested in that. The interface level integration, the consistency across interfaces and so on, that's going to be something that they'll own exclusively. But I will be interested to see if they do add some further integrations, maybe that are beyond the interface, that are exclusive to Kaseya. This is the latest and arguably the biggest in a series of acquisitions for Kaseya. Right? They bought Rapid Fire Tools, they bought Unitrends, they bought Spanning, which does cloud-to-cloud backup, and the strategy in each case has been to continue operating those businesses under their existing name as subsidiaries, independent business units. They will sell to anyone just like they did before, but they're always looking at Kaseya for something that you can get. If you're a Rapid Fire Tools user, they're looking for some feature, something or other that you can only get if you're also using Kaseya. So you're not going to give anything up by sticking with somebody else's platform, but there are going to be benefits, rewards to using the product with the Kaseya Managed Services platform. And so I'll be curious to see if there's more of that coming down the road.
Very, very cool. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. But you know what? We cannot let Kaseya dominate the only news spot we have this week. There's other things. And the ASCII group, now they didn't buy a documentation system, but they did partner with somebody on something.
They partnered with the InfoSec Institute, so a cybersecurity consulting firm, a source of cybersecurity expertise. ASCII Group is a membership organization for MSPs and VARs, IT professionals. They are always looking basically for ways to add value for the members. This is the newest addition to what you get for your membership fee. It's a security awareness toolkit, basically designed specifically for MSPs and MSSPs, managed security service providers. And it comes with educational materials and all sorts of stuff that you need to, as an MSP or MSSP, to educate your end users about cybersecurity best practices. We don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on this. I think it's kind of an interesting thing to check out for anyone who is in ASCII. For anyone else, I think what's interesting about it to me is just that there's such a big push on security awareness training right now, really just within the last 18 months even. That has been a huge thing in the security industry, and a lot of the big names in security, Sophos and Webroot, have been either acquiring security awareness training providers or rolling out products developed in-house. We've seen vendors like Breach Secure Now have big years, because people understand even the best, most layered defense in depth is not going to do very much to protect a company if somebody clicks the link in an email. Within the employee base, you really have to have an aware employee base. So there are all sorts of products and platforms out right now to assist with security awareness training. And now here is a toolkit that MSPs can use that they're basically just kind of getting with their membership fee from ASCII. So, I don't know enough about it to compare the completeness or robustness of the offering with some of these things available from the other security vendors, but it's kind of an interesting alternative model for acquiring some of that, some of the resources you need to do security awareness training.
Now, Herman, as someone who has just had a recent bout with the nefarious, if you are, I don't know if you are part of ASCII or if you do a lot with them in your travels, but is this something that you would have been excited about?
Well, I'm actually an ASCII member because I still do.
Are you?
Yeah, I still do IT work for a couple of clients, but I mean, some pretty choice clients. But the really interesting thing about it, as Rich kind of hit on, isn't necessarily what's in the kit or any of that stuff. It's the fact that people are seeing that it's that important now. So part of what I did in my IT company is we did computer security awareness training. We did audits, security audits. We did drills. We did a lot of different things that we found we could charge for. And now people are really starting to realize there's a lot of opportunity in security. You'll notice that SANS has new training on forensics. SANS Institute has some great training. Dave Cowan was one of the guys that wrote some of that. He wrote the book. He's written several books on computer security. I can't think of it right now of all the ones he wrote. But, I think it's time that people start looking at computer security as a higher end, higher margin item they can sell. And not just, I think the time of, $200 a month for an endpoint, just doing security or just doing Windows patches is over, right? That's over. So it's time that, MSPs start to mature a little bit more, start to look into security practices, especially I believe the government actually issued a warning just a few months back about using MSPs because it might introduce security issues. So, now's the time to go out and get your security certifications, get your security training, and start thinking a bit higher than just simple patching and remote maintenance.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I'm saddened to hear that Windows patches as a business is over. That's every Sunday morning for me. So now I don't know what I'm going to do with my Sunday morning other than cry in the corner.
That N64 behind you.
Yeah, bust out the old N64 and that Dreamcast. It's funny. If I still had access to dial-up, I think I still have the web browser to that Dreamcast. It'd be interesting to see if that's a secure way to browse the internet these days, given how old it is. Rich, I don't know if there's a whole lot else here to talk about, other than they have this toolkit and that it's a good thing and that people do need to take security seriously.
And I would just totally endorse and reiterate what Herman was just saying, that, there arguably is no bigger opportunity right now in IT than security and cybersecurity specifically, meaning, the stuff that's requires a little bit more expertise than basic endpoint anti-malware. And it does take an investment of some time and some money to acquire that expertise. But the ROI on that right now, I think, is potentially very large. So, wherever it is you go, whatever resource you look into to start figuring out how to, honestly and accurately position yourself to clients as somebody who knows something about cybersecurity, I think that is time and money well spent.
Yeah, I'd say that the time to there are two times that are really great to get your cybersecurity stuff hashed out, to really learn about it. That 15 years ago and today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you need to, I think any service provider that isn't looking at security services as a revenue stream is really shortchanging themselves. And if they don't jump on it now, they're going to miss the big margin opportunity. Early on, there's always the big margin opportunity. Then eventually commoditization comes in, the margins go away. You start seeing a lot of different businesses acquiring each other. And that's when it just kind of all starts falling apart as far as profit margins go, right? That doesn't mean it stops happening, but the profit margins go away, right? So right now is your opportunity to jump in, start learning about security today, find a way to learn about it, and start offering some services.
Yeah,
Kern.
Totally
All right.
agree. Yeah, it is not too late to be an early adopter.
Absolutely true. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our news segment. We don't really have a whole lot else to talk about in news, but we have lots more ahead. We've got a couple big stories that we're going to talk about. The year ahead in security. Speaking of security, the year ahead in managed services, and of course, we have an interview with Michael Fraser from Refactor. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and you all can. This is kind of new in this whole live video thing. Like, we're going to take a break, but people are going to see us like scrambling and trying to figure out what the heck we need to do to get Michael on here and stuff. So you get to see a little bit of behind the scenes.
Tech demo.
Tech demo, yes. When you're watching live, you never know what you're going to see. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to see if we can kind of get the next segment going, whether or not we're going to see if we can get Mr. Michael on or go into the next part. So stick around. We'll be right back. Rich, we're about the 30 to 40 minute mark in, I believe. Is Mr. Michael ready? Does he have the right link?
He did not. So while we were talking about security there just minutes ago, I happened to notice, thankfully I saw it on my tablet here, that he sent an email. Hey, I'm in here. Nobody else is here. What's going on? So I forwarded him the correct link. Are you not seeing him there anywhere?
I don't see him in here yet.
I know Michael. He's a good man. I'll just be Michael.
Yeah.
So I don't see. Yeah, I only see right now. I only see the three of us in here. So maybe you want to take a minute as our fine audience kind of waits while we figure out, because if he's ready, we can go ahead and talk to him, and then we'll put the other two stories kind of after that.
Sure.
Herman, do you want to stick around?
I'm living right now. Nobody's blowing me up, so I guess the guy hasn't shown up, or
they're still they're still chasing the white Bronco down down the highway.
Well, the thing is that our manager knows who the guy is. He actually knows the guy personally from someplace else, and he's a homeless guy. He lives in different apartment or different hotels every couple weeks. And so I don't know if they're ever going to catch this kid, to be honest with you. But I got my 2600 games back, which is my personal collection, so I'm okay.
Gotta have. You know what's funny is I collected a lot of gaming systems. I never collected the 2600 just because those games are big and they take up a lot of space, and it was just kind of before my time. But like I do have like, in terms of emulation, like every system ever, you know.
Sure.
And I think all of the entire 2600 library fits on like a 64 megabyte USB drive.
yeah, it's small. It's like it's under 200 megabytes, all of it.
Yeah, it's really, really tiny, which is kind of funny.
I've been told that the detective came by and everything's cool. I mean, you know, everything that we can do has been done. So
very fun. Rich, okay, I think, we have him.
Mike.
We have him. All right.
What's up, Michael?
Hello. How are you?
I'm sorry about that. We had a last minute link change. I apologize for that.
No problem. I was all lonely and sad in the other Google Hangout.
I did that too, man.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I guess every time I hit like start a Hangout, even though it's a scheduled event, every time I hit like start a Hangout, I think it generates a different URL. So we'll just have to be careful of that going forward.
No worries.
So right now we're kind of at a break. We're going to come back from break, and we'll go ahead and dive in. So we're not going to make you wait around forever.
Okay,
cool.
Perfect. Do you think we'll be wrapped up by 1:30 Pacific, like in the next half an hour?
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we'll probably, your interview will be maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Rich, does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Perfect.
And then we'll let you go, and then we'll dive into our other stories. So coming back from break, here we go. All right, and we are back with part 2 here of ChannelPro Weekly. We have a special interview and guest here with us live on the show, Mr. Michael Fraser from Refactor.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. And I know Rich has got a whole bunch of things we want to talk about, but you guys officially just launched some new cloud orchestration and automation solutions. So why don't we go ahead and start there, and you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Refactor, I'm the CEO and chief architect and co-founder. That's a mouthful and a half. And
does all that fit on one business card?
It does. And actually I have tiny 2-inch business cards too, if you can imagine that. But we created this platform that we call the Cloud Plus Security Architect platform. And it's really about being able to your point, orchestrate, automate, and integrate everything as a service. And so our whole goal is to take what the developer world is able to use from DevOps tools and be able to provide a visually collaborative platform that the channel can use and get into and start building solutions that you would normally expect a cloud architect or cloud security architects to build. So it's pretty exciting for us.
Very cool. Rich, I think you had a bunch of questions you wanted to ask him. Why don't you don't need my permission. Just go ahead, man.
Well, first of all, for folks who remember your previous business, Infinite Ops, just kind of help people understand where you got to this particular offering, because you've done a lot of work in the cloud actually over the course of the last few years that's really kind of helped you understand exactly what's involved in standing up an Azure environment, AWS, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, back I started a company called Infinite Ops where we were doing workspaces as a service. And what we found is when we were building these solutions out that were with Citrix and Parallels, RAS products and RDS and all these different desktop services that we turned into workspace as a service, we found that there's this bigger, broader problem that's happening out there in the channel, especially around cloud or defined. And so as we started building that out, we pivoted fairly quickly and started Refactor and found out that we really wanted to provide something that could enable partners to not just build workspace as a service type offerings, but be able to combine anything that they wanted to build that would be considered software defined in a visual manner. And this all came about because of some of the developers tools we started using, realizing, wait a minute, we don't want to expose these to the partner by themselves because of the fact they're very complicated. They take a lot of effort and know-how to get into. But is there a way for us to be able to build a layer on top that can structure everything visually, as most service providers are used to building with whatever products and services they have? And as well as the fact that a lot of them will live, if they even are using the public cloud, say the Azure portal or going to AWS, they want to build stuff from the portals and in through a user interface. And so we wanted to look at, okay, that's awesome, but now they may want to do other things to automate. What do they have to do? And so they'd have to go out there and find developer tools that we were using with Infinite Ops. And so Refactor's platform really is the next, it's a whole new play on it, but it came out of realizing that orchestration, automation, and integration were the key pieces of value that partners were really needed, focused on software-defined solutions.
Yeah, it's interesting because almost the dark little secret about, Azure or AWS, say, is how complicated it can be to really it's a very simple thing, obviously. All you need is a credit card and a web browser if all you want to do is set up one virtual instance or something like that. But if you're really trying to create an environment for a solution, so for example, when I wrote about your launch a couple of months ago, I spoke with one of your customers in Santa Rosa, and he got this idea that he wanted to offer cloud hosting services to his customers. Figured I'm in the Microsoft world, I'm going to do it on Azure. And it didn't take him very long once he started investigating what was going to be entailed in that to figure out that, Azure sounds easy, but it is not. And it was just overwhelming and intimidating. And so for him, this was great. It was like, okay, click. I can kind of say what I need, and then I can just kind of let this platform do the work for me in the background and get everything set up. Because it's not easy, is it? Once you're actually getting into Azure or AWS, there's a lot to learn.
There is, and it's not just the cloud services. It's also the fact that as more and more vendors start pushing their products out there in an as-a-service model, they're also providing APIs to partners, and partners are looking at that and going, okay, that's great, but what am I supposed to do with that? And so starting to be able to combine different services, cloud services, and other external systems together into bigger solutions, because even the partner of ours that you're talking about, the use case that they were looking at was not just they want to build out the base in Azure and use some of the IaaS and PaaS solutions, traditional IaaS like virtual machines and all the networking, and then also bringing in some of the PaaS offerings like Azure Backups. But the actual inside of all of those services, they wanted to also deploy Parallels and a bunch of other software, and then be able to tie into ConnectWise, because there are ConnectWise partners, ConnectWise Manage and Install Automate. And so you start figuring out that there's all these different things that they want to combine all together. And so even if they get into the portal and start deploying stuff and figuring out how it all works, they can't repeat it. Or if they do, it's going to take some legwork on their end to do that. And even then, it's the everything else that goes along with that too, because a solution isn't just the cloud services. It's going to be everything that they want to provide to the customer as whatever package that they're selling to them. And I think that's the bigger play here is there's an ecosystem shift that needs to happen in the overall channel as a whole to where everybody is pushing forward in this as a service model, which really means that everything is becoming software defined. And so you have to either A, know how software works, or B, have some semblance on using essentially a platform like we've built, or building your own tool chains if you want to get into developer tools. But that's usually out of the grasp of most service providers. They're not going to. They don't have the time to try to add a bunch more products or tools to be able to have to go train their engineers on. And the other issue is that there's a lot of time on the front end to have to automate, which segues me into our push on the marketplace, because we realize that if we give somebody a blank canvas to build whatever they want to have some sort of basis of use cases or scenarios that they're already currently used to that they can come into. And so in our last release that you covered, we put in our marketplace, and we're starting to add in these reference architecture or use case blueprints that they can actually run, whether it's in Azure, AWS, or even just hitting some various APIs, but being able to get the end result that they're looking for without having to even figure out what exactly that they need to just get started. Because that's the biggest issue with even our platform is they need a basis and understanding of where even they want to get started to start solving for this type of automated approach.
Right. So it's like you've got this marketplace has a collection of, I guess the terminology is blueprints, but like recipes basically for the kinds of solutions or workloads that somebody might, is likely to want to use Refactor to launch. So like you were saying, they don't have to kind of, learn your platform before they can start taking advantage of it. If they're doing something that aligns exactly or closely with one of these blueprints, they have that sort of jump start. And now I'm trying to remember from the article I wrote, are the items in the marketplace right now stuff that you created, or are there people, third parties, who are putting blueprints in there as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So up to this point, it's what we put into the marketplace. But when we were at IT Nation, we won the inaugural Pitch It competition. And in that competition, our business plan proposal was to expand out our marketplace in alignment with what the ConnectWise community wants as a whole for products inside of our platform. And then that goes into the enrolling vendors in being able to work with us to start contributing. So we are working with key vendors in the channel to be able to start adding in, DR products and various capabilities around even PSAs and RMM and security products too. So the goal is we want to have the marketplace be in alignment with not only the core tools that they're already using from running their business, as if it's a PSA or RMM, but also security and security tools as well that go in alignment with what their customers' requirements are going to be. Because one of the other key pieces to all this is not just that the cloud is complex to get into once you start trying to build out these larger solutions, but the other key piece to all this is that there are security controls and repeatability that you want to make sure that every time you deploy a solution for a customer, that it's in alignment with what you're trying to help them, guide them to ensure that they have the proper security controls in place, not just in the cloud services, but also if they tie into APIs, if they're running automation inside of hosts. And so there's all these bigger picture things from a security standpoint that just go hand in hand with anybody that wants to start building things in the public cloud and even against APIs.
Now we need to talk about that award, the ConnectWise award that you mentioned. So before you were on the air with us at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that you had won this. And there are contests, there are awards at all sorts of different events. We do awards like vendor awards at our show, and we have a very lovely plaque that you take home. And it's nice. But tell folks you won first prize at this contest, and this is the first time that ConnectWise has run this particular competition. What was first prize, Michael?
So first prize for us was we won $100,000. We also get 10 hours of ConnectWise consulting and joint marketing to essentially cover our journey as we essentially implement the business plan that we proposed when we entered the competition.
$100,000. Michael, I forgot to tell you that there's an invoice. Me to try to be on the show here. I'll send you a bill. You can write checks out to me directly.
Nice. I'll send you a big check like they sent me. I tried to take it to the bank, but it wouldn't cash. So, that's awesome.
Taking a picture of those giant checks with your phone to do the online deposit is
exactly.
You like stand on a 20-foot ladder.
I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Well, very cool. So, Michael, I'm sure you have a website where people can go and they can learn a little bit more about you guys and what you do and social networks. Why don't you go ahead and tell people how they can get in touch with you and where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website's at Refactor, like our name, refactr.it. So it's Refactor IT. That's our website. And we're also on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. So you can find us anywhere on social media as well. And we will be pushing out some cool videos that will be coming out Q1 as well. So you'll be able to find us on YouTube as well from that standpoint.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us today and tell us a little bit about that. And hopefully we'll get you on again soon. And we will put a link to your website and some of those places on our show notes page on the website and also in the comments and where the YouTube video will ultimately end up.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Thank you so much.
Take it easy, Mike.
You too. Good talking to you.
Honestly, Michael's product was so interesting to me. As he was talking there, I was actually on the phone with my CTO going back and forth over the product. At Vertical Action, we have a ton of servers that we manage, and there's a lot of deployment we do that's duplicated, a lot of duplicate work that we end up doing. And so it just sounded really interesting to me, and we're definitely taking a look at it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. All right, Rich. Well, we got a lot more here to cover in part 2, and it'll be interesting to get Herman's opinion on some of these. But we've got two big things that we tend to do as we near the end of a year, and that's we look to the year ahead and make some predictions. And we've done that. So we have two that we're going to talk about: the year ahead in security.
So, and I should say these aren't our predictions. So every year in ChannelPro, in our January issue, we have our sort of year ahead in technology article, and I actually just finished writing that a few days ago. That'll be our cover story for January. But at this time of year, beginning right around Thanksgiving, a little bit after that, my inbox starts filling up with predictions from vendors,
which we aggregate and we put out there. Yes.
Well, we
they're not our predictions per se, but we are.
We pull the best, the most interesting, because I've got dozens and dozens of them, but I pulled out some of the most interesting and put them into two different articles, which are up on our homepage right now. And one of them, as you say, is focused on security, and the other is focused on predictions around managed services. So we'll start with security, and we won't go into all of those here, but just some of the things that some of these vendors talked about that I thought was sort of interesting. Just as for example, servers, according to Sophos, be on the lookout for servers being more of a target in 2019 versus PCs and laptops and other endpoints. Basically, the security vendors out there have done a pretty good job, and so have the MSPs, and so have the end users of deploying technologies that secure PCs and secure laptops. The servers, on the other hand, are sometimes a little bit more vulnerable, and that's where the data gets stored. That's where a lot of the good stuff is stored. So we're starting to see, the security vendors are starting to see much more server-specific kind of exploits out there, and they're expecting that only to accelerate in 2019. Now, this is not going to come as a huge shock. We got a prediction from the folks at Spiceworks that IoT devices are going to be targeted to a greater extent in 2019. And they, just to kind of back that up, they cited some of their own recent research in which they found that 50% of organizations out there have IoT devices on their wireless network right now, but only 36% of the IT professionals they surveyed are confident that they know how to respond to an attack on any of those IoT devices. So lots of IoT hardware out there, not a whole ton of security or expertise in terms of securing that hardware. That adds up to more attacks.
That's why the security training is so important.
There you go. There you go. So many different devices coming on the network these days. I just did an interview with somebody a few hours ago, and he said the panel that controls the fire alarm system and the interface to the police department for that security system and the HVAC system, that they're all on the network right now. They're all agentless. They're all potential entry points to the network. And then, once somebody uses the HVAC system to get onto the network, they can start moving around and looking for something more interesting. That's exactly what happened at Target. If you remember that enormous breach, the guys who pulled that off got in through the HVAC system. So yeah, huge issue. Guess what? One of those things, those internet-enabled things that can be compromised due to weak security is your automobile. Increasingly, those are connected to the internet now. And the folks at Logarithm believe 2019, unfortunately, is going to be the first year in which somebody in an internet-enabled car is killed in an accident that is triggered in one way or another by an IoT-related hack. They sort of feel like we've been right on the edge of that for a while, and it's probably going to happen at some point in 2019. And then I'll touch.
Rich, is there any good news?
You know what? There's a little bit of good news.
Or like good predictions, like chocolate's going to fall from the sky, anything like that? I mean, or is this all like doom and gloom?
It's mostly doom and gloom. The last prediction there was just a touch of a silver lining there. That came in from the Certificate Authority Security Council, an industry body, and they are predicting that by the end of 2019, over 90% of HTTP traffic will be safeguarded by SSL or TLS encryption. And that's not the answer to everything, but by golly, encryption really is very important in this day and age. I think they said right now we're at 77% of traffic being encrypted, that we're going to get over 90% by the end of next year. That's something. That's a little bit something for you.
That is some good news.
I'll take it. I'll take any kind of good news.
And I didn't even give you the scariest one of all, which comes from WatchGuard, basically.
No, you're supposed to go good news or bad news. And we say bad news first, Rich. You're not supposed to sandwich it. Who does that?
You're
bad news sandwich.
Yeah. But I want people to be able to sleep tonight. Maybe go look at the article and see what WatchGuard predicted, which, just a hint, looks a whole lot like a Bruce Willis movie.
Oh gosh, I'm looking at that now. Oh yeah, we don't want to talk about this. So okay, if you don't want to sleep, then we'll put a link to this article. I highly recommend you browse through this with alcohol. That will help soften the blow a little bit. But scary stuff. Herman, what do you think? Do you see it? You agree with some of these predictions? Do you see something different? It's actually,
I'm sitting here making fun of Rich with the bad news, and I think it's probably worse than this. It's amazing how much we don't think about how connected we are. Everybody wants those Ring doorbells, right? That's a potential point of entry. People get a home security system that's got a 4G wireless adapter in it so that they can manage it from their phone. And then they hook it up to their wired network in their house or in their office with their security cameras. Well, look, there's two different points of entry now. So many different opportunities, so many different vectors of attack. But hey, there is good news in this. And the good news is what we talked about earlier. Look at all the opportunity you have to secure your clients' networks, which every time you have an opportunity to do that is a time you could make some money. So here's what I would do. This is my prediction. I'll give you a little prediction. I called into Miss Cleo, and I had her read some predictions for me, some cards, and this is what I think is going to happen. I'm predicting that next year, a lot of MSPs are going to spend some money on marketing security services, and they're going to increase their revenues. How about that? That's good news. And they're going to secure their clients' networks. That's good news too.
Yay, money.
And
money should be my tagline. That is, I dig that.
No, but I mean, it's a great example of doing good doing well by doing good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is a new business venture for channel pros out there, and what they are doing is making their customers safer from all these bad guys. That's good stuff.
Now we got to be careful here because I am personally on board with eliminating nefarious people from this world. But are you saying that we should be thanking the nefarious for this opportunity?
I'm saying you should be thanking whoever is out there training you to be better at your craft and to market your craft better. That's what I'm saying. You should be thanking those people.
Yes. Okay. All right. Good.
It all comes around to positivity with me.
Positivity. As long as we're not thanking the bad guys, because
yeah. Well,
I still think we shouldn't have bad guys.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to thank a bad guy. I'm going to thank that bad guy that stole my games, walked back into the store like an idiot, and tried to sell them back to us.
Well, thank goodness for not so bright bad guys.
Okay. Yeah, how about that? I'll take that.
All right. Well, that's a horrifying look at the year ahead in security. But we're also going to take a look at vendor predictions as for the year ahead in managed services. Now, Rich, is this list a little less doom and gloom?
A lot less. This is a happier list. I don't know if anyone's going to do handstands, but this will not keep you up at night.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, we need a break from that, don't we? So a number of different predictions for MSPs, one of which comes from the folks at Kaseya, who we were mentioning before. And this is related to something that I've been really interested in for a number of years now and watching and sort of waiting to materialize, and it hasn't really happened yet. And that is this whole influence of machine learning and artificial intelligence on managed services. And we've certainly seen some instances of machine learning technology getting built into RMM tools and some of the platforms that MSPs use to service their customers. But the folks at Kaseya think 2019 is going to be kind of a breakthrough year there, where you're really going to start seeing AI playing a role in anticipating problems, automatically mitigating problems so that people don't necessarily have to get involved. We'll finally start to really, in a tangible way next year, start to see AI play a role in automating managed services. And that'll be really an interesting trend to watch if it does materialize. The folks at StorageCraft, who do BDR and also scale out storage, say 2019 is the first year of the petabyte era for the SMB. Enterprises have been living there for a while, giant data stores, but these days, even SMBs, they're accumulating video. They're deploying IoT solutions that are generating enormous amounts of data for analytics purposes. And the idea of a company with, fewer than 1,000 employees needing to figure out what the heck to do with a petabyte of data. This is not going to be only an issue for the enterprises to think about beginning in 2019 and only accelerating from there. Let's see, Nerdio from the Chicago area, your neck of the woods there, Matt. They make a sort of SMB network in a box. They don't like it when I call it that, but this is how I think of it. It's like a 100% streaming, everything you need SMB network cloud environment. And they are really excited in something that we talked about just recently on the podcast, which is this new Windows Virtual Desktop offering that Microsoft introduced in September. And we listened to an interview segment on this podcast from the folks at CloudJumper who said that this is going to be a huge opportunity. It's going to completely shake up the vendor landscape. The Nerdio folks think it's going to be pretty huge too, and they think 2019 is going to be a year where you really begin to see folks in the Microsoft channel, MSPs, starting to take advantage of that product and introducing Windows VDI service practices. And then last but not least, and there are some other odds and ends in this article. I encourage you to take a look at it. But the last one I'll touch on here basically is that the folks at Intermedia, who have placed a pretty big bet just within the last year, really, on unified communications as a service, are really pretty convinced, based on the data that they're looking at, the sales trends they're looking at, that unified communications as a service is going to be huge in 2019, basically. And they're basing this, as a lot of people are, on this idea, essentially, that there are a lot of millennials coming into the workforce now with a set of expectations around the communications tools available to them at the office, text and chat and video. This is a generation that's not used to using the phone, doesn't much like using the phone. They really kind of expect to have a unified communications platform available to them, even if they don't think of it that way. And as that generation composes a bigger and bigger share of the workforce, you're going to see their employers understand that if we want to attract and retain these people, we've got to bring these kind of tools to them. And so you're really going to start to see some unified communications momentum next year.
So Herman, do you think that, especially in the unified communications front, do you think that all communication in the future is just going to be through like emojis and memes?
It's funny you say that. I just got an email from my CTO, and it was a meme of Pikachu in a response to an email. So I think we are 100% on our way to memes being the future. And if you think I'm kidding, right here, meme email.
There it is.
So it's funny.
Pikachu in all his glory.
Yep. So surprised Pikachu was an answer to a positive question or a positive news that I gave this gentleman. But yeah, here's the thing. Unified communications are gonna be huge. We've been saying it for a long time, but with the millennial workforce maturing and coming into the fold a little more, you're definitely going to see more use of that. Like, I was so surprised when I started doing consulting work. So one of the other things I do is I do consulting for .com startups, and yeah, I'm that old. I said .com. It's the information superhighway. And I work with .com startups, and they all make fun of me for it, but they all pay me, so it doesn't matter. But here's the thing. These guys are using Slack in ways I've never even imagined to use Slack. Everything is built into it. Their dashboards, all the most relevant data to them is right there inside Slack. And then they always have a channel that actually says memes, almost every one of them. And they had to do it so that people could dump their memes and have a good time and leave the chats alone. But the fact is, these guys are having tremendous productivity out of a group of people that a lot of employers thought were hard to deal with. But what they're finding is it's the communication tools that giving them communication tools they're more familiar with have really changed their expectations and their abilities.
It's really interesting. That observation about Slack in particular is really, really interesting. It makes me curious what kinds of things people are doing with that solution that maybe are not 100% intuitive. But it also kind of makes me think that there was a long period of time whenever we were talking about Office 365, say, where one of the really kind of safe things that you could say to an Office 365 reseller is, sure, right now you're mostly using email and maybe OneDrive and some of those really basic kind of tools that come with Office 365. But most of the subscriptions you're selling come with SharePoint, and there's this whole business opportunity around helping your customers take advantage of this tool that they already have, they're already paying for it, and they just don't know it. And I'm really starting to think SharePoint isn't the great illustration of that point anymore. It's Teams, Microsoft Teams, which is meant to be their Slack competitor. I'll just bet
Teams is great.
Yeah, that's the product that folks should be familiarizing themselves with, getting good at deploying and customizing for people, because that's the kind of solution, more so than SharePoint, that millennial age employees in particular are going to be really excited to have access to at the office.
You know, you're a good man, Rich. I never like to disagree. But let's make the show interesting. And
Yes.
we've been agreeing on so much stuff. You know what? I hate to say it, Slack's where it's at. Yeah, certainly learn the Microsoft stuff. Certainly learn it. But I encourage you to take a look at Slack and take a look at the Slack alternatives and other things out there like that. There's this whole ecosystem that millennials use that has nothing to do with Microsoft. And
Right.
I think that there is an opportunity for, when I was, running my IT company, we started back in the 90s, and late 90s, we started doing Linux deployments for small business owners to save them money, out of the Microsoft ecosystem. And it was way too early. That was a mistake I made. But I will say now that with the adoption of cloud services, cloud everything, you got your smartphone, you've got Chromebooks, Apple, just a whole diaspora of PCs now, not just the Wintel world, right? We've got everything else that we have to worry about. I'm telling you, these alternative platforms have really come a long way, and it's hard to fight the entrenched ideas, right? So a lot of companies are responding. So Microsoft responded with Teams. They didn't innovate Teams. They didn't come up with Teams. They responded. And I think sometimes the response is too little, too late. But I think in the enterprise, you're still going to be seeing Teams used. You're still going to be, but for the SMB, I think, these alternative platforms like Slack are kind of going to be used. And I think it's important that we know how to take advantage of that.
It's a really interesting argument and a good point, and it sort of reminds me of a conversation I had earlier this year with an executive from Synex, and he was talking about how you look at Google's Office 365 equivalent, the G Suite products, and they absolutely have a footprint in the business world today. But I mean, compared to Office 365, it's not a very big footprint. But he said, there's this whole generation of kids with Chromebooks, and they're doing everything on Google in school, and they're going to come out of school and they're going to go into the workforce, and they're not going to be interested in the Microsoft product. It's like they're going to be looking for the tools that they're familiar with and that they've always.
That's how Apple did it.
And yeah.
Google targeting education with G Suite was one of the smartest things that they did. It's not going to pay off big time today, but it is definitely going to pay off in the future.
They are training. They are going a generation ahead. They knew they had their money for. This is the way I think that Alphabet kind of took a look at that. They said, listen, we know where our money is today. Where's our money going to be tomorrow? And they started building for that. Their classroom, they take a lot of chances. You've got the Chromebooks, you've got the Chromebox, which doesn't even exist anymore, I don't think. You got Chromecast. You got a ton of. Is that my son? You got a ton of.
That was me.
You got a ton of different opportunities there that they tried in the education sector. Google Hangouts is used very heavily in the education sector right now. They're making it, and they made the entry point so little that they removed the barrier of money for schools, and these less fortunate in giving away laptops to less fortunate schools and just lowering the price all around. They've really created this new ecosystem that was really ahead. I mean, I kind of saw what they were doing with it. I didn't know if they pull it off, and I'm starting to see the fruits of their labor. I've got 4 Chromebooks here at the house.
Wow.
We use Chromebooks. It's but see, that's where the MSP needs to start thinking. Well, if Google's thinking that far ahead, and you've got this closed architecture of the Chromebook that's not going to get a virus, it's going to be really difficult to happen, right? It's the typical repair cycle that you would do is gone because all your data is stored in the cloud, right? So they're not worried about saving their data because it's in the cloud. You need to start looking at what's the future for you. And I think that's really important for MSPs. And that's why security, again, I'm going to come around to it and beat up on it until we all get the point. I think security is the next move. And if you're not hopping into the security world, you're really doing yourself a disservice. It's always great. Like, you see people now getting into the MSP space, and that's fine because I'm also the president of the Association of Computer Repair Business Owners, right? So a lot of our members are just now getting in the MSP space. And that's great. It's good to see. But they missed the big opportunity. They missed the big money, right? Because the early adopters were the ones that would pay more. Same situation right now. Companies are starting to wise up to the fact they need security, where before they just kind of ignored it. Remember everybody's screaming, hey, we're going to make a ton of money off this HIPAA compliance thing, and nobody really cared. Well, now, I mean, I knew doctors that literally retired before having to computerize their office. That's a fact. They were like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to modernize my office. I'm going to retire. I mean, I would go out on those sales calls and you watch them fight it. They were giving them pediatricians would get $70,000 if they would just adopt certain processes. They said, no to 70 grand. No, don't want it. Forget it. They had to do it anyways at some point, or they'd lose money, or you lose a percentage of your money. Still didn't matter to the consumer. That's the point. The consumer didn't care. But now the problems have started arriving. They see the bad stuff happening. They see people getting punished. It's different now. And the approach is security. So security. Everybody's sticking, what do you got in your home right now? Think about it. A lot of homes, you got Alexa, you got Google Mini, Google Home Mini, you've got Ring, you've got the thermostat. What's that called? I can't think of it anymore. The big Nest. Yeah. You got Nest. I mean, you got everything. My home Christmas lights can be turned on and off from my cell phone. And they're insecure. And I'm not going to tell you what the IP address is to play with it. But there's a lot of people out there that do things like that, right? Of course, they're insecure in my own home on my own local network where it's not connected to the internet. But the point is, there's people out there buying controllers and plugging them into their networks, plugging in, to the internet where it's insecure. And they don't know these things. And it's up to you. It's your responsibility as an MSP, your responsibility as an SMB IT company, your responsibility as a computer repair shop. I don't care what you call yourself. It's your responsibility to bone up on your knowledge about security, because that is where it's important now. It used to be hardware was important. Then it was, managing the OS is important. Now security is what's important. And that's what you need to be spending the time on.
Unless you call yourself Fred, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, then you're okay.
So before we dive down the rabbit hole there, any other predictions that we wanted to touch on? We talked a little bit about AI, which there's definitely a lot of interesting things happening in AI. We also talked about what were some of the other predictions we had? Any of those standing out to you? Do you think this is the year of AI, the year of turning our lives over to robotics? What do you think, Herman?
Oh, for me,
yeah.
I was actually, I thought you were asking Rich. I was actually going to pull up something pretty cool that has to do with AI. The fact is, yeah, I think AI's it's poised to do a lot. We're using it more in our homes, where we talked about Google Home and Alexa and that good stuff. Man, there's even AI algorithms to take an image and remove the background and keep the person in that are almost 100% perfect, or to keep an item in. I was just playing with that this morning. Just everything they can do with AI right now is pretty amazing. You have a lot of Google Messenger bots, which aren't necessarily AI driven, but it's a level of AI for some of them. And it's getting hard to tell the difference between, what's real and what's not. You saw Microsoft try with the Tay AI just a couple of years ago, and that thing learned so quickly. And it's just amazing what can happen. And I think if we're not careful, in a blink of an eye, the AI is going to take our jobs. They took our germs.
And you know what? That includes me. How many years is it before the AI are better and faster at writing news articles than I am?
Well, Rich, I got bad news for you, man. Oh, it's a good thing you're not a sports writer. Do you know there's an AI that writes sports now?
Absolutely, and stock reports. Those are the two that they can do quite well today.
You cannot tell the difference. We internally do use AI to help us with our SEO services. We've written our own software that allows us to manipulate articles so that they are fresh and different, and we don't have to write tons of different content. We've done that. We have another AI that helps us with our web development to get it out quickly. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but now it's on a Google Hangout. Didn't really think that through, just talking to buddies. But there's my secret for the past couple of years. I keep it to myself, but I guess I just blew that. But yeah, so that's the thing. The AI is here. You're using it every day. You might not know it. There are Google AI systems that call and make appointments for you that are calling your office right now, probably, and you don't even know it. And check things out. So, I think we're probably going to see AI robocallers soon. I'd say real soon. I'd say in the next 6 months, you'll start, instead of just hearing the recordings of, "Hi, this is Alice. This is not a solicitation call. We're going to try to sell you something," which totally solicitation. But I think you're going to start seeing interactive systems that play with you a bit more. So, the uncanny valley is coming.
Yep.
Mute.
Yeah, Matt, we are not hearing you.
Oh no, am I back?
There you are. You're back. Yeah, we had a problem earlier.
Apparently, it did not unmute me, even though it said I was not muted. I was saying, I think of all the things that we've talked about, that was probably the most scary. Even with all the other security predictions, AI is a terrifying thing. It's cool, but terrifying.
Well, imagine an advanced AI that gets broken into and messed with.
Let's not even.
Wow.
I want to sleep tonight. I really, really, really do.
It's already happened. John Connor saves us, though, so it's okay.
It always comes back to Skynet every single time. All right. Crazy stuff. Well, if you're watching, or folks, if you have your own predictions about things that are going to happen in 2019, various technologies, various security things, feel free to jump in the chat here while we're broadcasting live. If you're catching this audio version later or watching it later on YouTube, send us an email, podcast@channelpronetwork.com. We'd love to get your predictions and what you see coming in the year ahead. So what we're going to do now, I think we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to roll into our end of the show regular features. I've got a museum pick and a tech pick for you. And Rich will grab his crystal ball. Do you have your crystal ball?
Yeah, it's not within camera shot here, but yeah, it's around.
Well, he gazes into it, and then he has this amazing ability to predict the past. There you go. That's a crystal ball.
Look at one of those.
Hey, that's a ChannelPro award. All right. He predicts the past, and he usually gets past 100% correct. Then he tries to predict the future, and he's fairly hit or miss with that, but usually pretty good. So you got that to look forward to. So stick around, and we will be right back. All right, we are back with ChannelPro Weekly Part 3, where we're going to dive into some of these regular features. So, Herman, this is your first time with us as a guest. Did you know that we do like a museum kind of thing, and why we do that?
No, tell me about this.
So for those who don't know, I have what I'd like to call a collection, a hobby of collecting various IT products, devices, gadgets, and I have a museum. Last week on the show, we did a tour of the display cabinet part of my museum. My wife calls it a hoarding disease. It's one of those two, but I've got stuff, notebooks and phones, and I mean going back years and years and years. I can't. If it has buttons or a screen or plugs in, I just can't throw it away. So every week we grab one of these and we we talk about it, and we kind of have a tech pick that kind of goes with it. So my museum pick this week, and Rich got to see this while he was here, and I just pulled this out of service, even though it's actually still working. It's kind of weird, but this thing is older than the hill. So I'm going to hold it up here. And for those who are listening via just audio, you can go to channelpronetwork.com/MGP, and you can grab a picture of this thing. So this is the D-Link what is this? The Dub H7, D-Link Dub H7. Basically, it's a 7-port.
Really the Dub.
The Dub. The good old Dub. Yeah, this is
in a car. The old Dubs.
So yeah, this is a 7-port powered USB 2.0 hub. I bought this at Sam's Club. I want to say 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. This thing is older than the hills. It's probably one of the few technology products I've ever bought for a computer that I've used as long as I have. And actually, I realized that I ended up having to replace it because I thought it was like failing because every time my mic would go on and my camera, it like my mic would stop working. And I actually think it's because it's a powered hub, and I think it just got unplugged. But it's USB 2 and it's old. And I realized that as I was replacing it. I'm like, oh, I think the cord just fell out. That was why it wasn't working. But this thing, it's amazing that USB 2, and it's been replaced now by USB 3 and 3.1 and all this kind of stuff. But the vast majority of peripherals that come out today are still USB 2. That's how old this is. That's crazy. So I thought this would be kind of a fun one to pull out. Now, Herman, are you on a notebook or you got a big desktop there?
I'm on a notebook.
You're on a notebook. Do you have like a USB hub to give you more USB ports?
I don't actually. What I have instead is a limited number of USB devices.
Well, yeah, and that's funny. That's the funny thing is that back when I bought this, it was for a desktop. I don't know, 5-6 desktops ago that probably only had like 2 USB ports, and I needed this to give me some more ports because I have lots of USB things that I plug in. I still do. But it's amazing that even though USB is still so ubiquitous, it's not. A lot of things have gone wireless, particularly mice and a lot of the peripherals you used to plug in. Now, Rich, you got one of these hub things?
Well, kind of, sort of. I'm using one now. So I'm on a laptop too. It's only got 2 USB connections, and I've got a camera and the headphones and a microphone. So I'm using this device that it was like a booth give out from Eaton that I picked up at some conference, and it's getting the job done. I don't know. You guys would know whether there are like performance differences if you're using a cheap hub like that or not. But that's what I'm on right now.
Those work fine, especially for low power devices. But it's probably a 4-port that you have, would be my guess.
Looks like 5. Oh,
5?
No, 4.
Yeah,
You're right.
4. Okay, because once you kind of start getting too many ports on there, you run into the power limitation, which is why ports like this had external power, because most likely you were going to exceed it. And I think that's why my mic stopped working, because the power cord fell out, and it was relying on the bus to power it. And USB 2 was how many milliamps of power, Herman? Are you a hardware guy?
I do not remember. I do have a hardware background, but I don't remember because I just about every time used a powered hub because I would always have problems.
Yeah, and I generally prefer powered hubs over the other kinds, unless I'm just using like a mouse and a USB stick or something.
It was USB 3 is 900. I think USB 2 was 100 milliamps.
It could be. I don't know. If you're in the chat, I'm sure one internet search will take you to a Wikipedia page that will give all of the power requirements. I want to say USB 2 was 500 mAh and USB, but I could be wrong.
The power being output from USB 3 is now up to 900 milliamps compared to USB 2.0's 100 milliamps.
Oh, there you go. You were right. You were right. So you win this nice AA battery that's half dead. All right. Anyway, so it's important. Hubs are good. USB is ubiquitous, just as much as a peripheral interconnect for computers, but as much as basically it's like the new US power receptacle.
It honestly is. It's funny. I was looking for because you were showing me the USB port. I usually have some odd USB device, like hate to say it. What I was really looking for is this USB device you plug into a USB 2.0 port, and it's just a dog that does this.
Like a bobblehead, kind of.
Kinda.
We've done articles, Rich. We've done articles about crazy USB peripherals, haven't we?
I think you're right. Yeah,
I think we've done some galleries like that where these are insane things you can get for USB ports. If we haven't done one of those in a while, we absolutely have to do another one soon.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of crazy stuff. So that was then, and so this was my museum pick. This was then, and actually it still works. But I can say it's a museum pick because it's out of service now. Although I think I'm going to put it back in service on my kid's laptop just because it only has 2 ports, and I can stick this up there. But I bought a new one because I thought this one was finally broken. So I had such good luck with this D-Link hub over the last 15 years or however long I've owned this thing. It's literally been on my desk as long as I can remember. That long. As far as I've been using computers, I have been plugging stuff into this thing forever. So I'm like, that's a pretty good service record. I think I'm gonna buy me another D-Link. And so that is exactly what I did. I went out and I purchased what is, I would say, is basically the direct descendant of this particular product. I'm gonna share my screen here because I have it up. Although Hangouts will not let me pick Firefox as a window to share. It ignores.
Interesting.
You know what? Sometimes I'm not gonna badmouth Google on a Hangout.
Just use these, you wouldn't even have a choice. So there you go. You wouldn't feel bad about it.
So I can pick any application window that's open except for an alternate web browser, which is kind of funny. All right, so let me, now that I have that open,
I had to open IE just to join.
That's so crazy. So this is the one that I chose. It's the direct descendant here. No, that is not the one I chose. Where is the one that I...
Do they call it dub?
It is. Well,
it is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's basically this one, but it's like the 7-port version.
It's short for D-Link Hub.
D-Link.
How clever.
Where for? I don't see it. Where? I thought I had the right tab up, but I guess I don't. Well, it's kind of like this. Where did it go? Okay, hold on. Rich, why don't I'm gonna put the camera back to you. Why don't you talk while I find the right stupid webpage?
Why don't I talk about anything in particular? Filling time here. This is the difference between being an occasional part-time podcaster and a radio professional. The radio professional, you can just toss to the radio professional at any time, and they know how to fill dead air.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic.
Me, it's a harder thing to do.
On that trip you took, you were saying you had some fun. You went to Navy Pier.
Yeah.
What did you do at Navy Pier? Because that, to me, honestly, business owners understand you don't get to take a lot of vacations. So when you find a spot you like, you want to know about it, right? So what
right.
Navy Pier?
Well, so they've got a this giant Ferris wheel out there, and so we figured we got to do that, and that was actually pretty fun. And then it's not the original Harry Carey's, but there is a Harry Carey's outlet out there, and I mean, if you're going to Chicago, you kind of have to do the Harry Carey's thing. So we popped in there for an adult beverage.
Have you ever done a Segway tour?
No, actually.
Listen, Segway tours of Chicago are amazing. I've taken several of them from different companies, and next time you're out there, you should definitely do a Segway tour of the area.
I'm from Seattle. I'm broadcasting from Seattle right now, and they do those here too. I see people.
Then you should do it locally too. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Does it take a lot of practice before you can operate one of those things?
As long as the batteries are running, it's pretty easy to use. One of the companies that I work with here in Huntsville, Alabama, is called Comment Sold. They bought an elementary school and they use it as their offices. And part of it's my offices too. Although I'm not there right now, I'm at my home office. But at that Comment Sold, the guy uses the hoverboards to get around. And he bought himself The gentleman's name is Brandon Cruz, and he bought himself a Segway to get around on, but he bought all of his staff hoverboards, and we just have hoverboard races and all sorts of hoverboard fun there in the office. It's been a lot of really interesting time. Now everybody's trying to trick out their hoverboards with LEDs and Bluetooth, and I'm just waiting for an internet connected hoverboard to get hacked, and then there we got a security issue where somebody gets hurt on an internet connected hoverboard, and that's how you bring a story back around.
That is odd. Segways are totally fun to ride. Okay, I figured out my confusion because I ended up not buying another D-Link. Speaking of Segways. Okay, so but I'll do two tech picks because I did look for a D-Link first, but for USB 3 speed they only have a 4-port, and I'll show a picture of that one. So I'll have two tech picks. One is this guy. Right here, this is the D-Link 4-port super speed USB 3 hub. It is powered, but they have a 7-port that's newer, and it's basically they still call it the Dub H7. It's like the exact same hub that I still have, except it's got like a black fancy case instead of this case. But it's like the exact same thing. It's still the same model number, if you can believe that. But I wanted a 7-port USB 3, so I actually ended up buying a TP-Link USB 3 7-port hub, which is this guy right here. It has a power button, which I don't know why I'd ever use that, but it's got 7 USB ports, and then it also had some charging ports on the side that's just for power. So I got this guy, and so far it's been running great, no problems. So that's my USB, my new USB hub. So there's two tech picks for you there. The D-Link, if you want one that will last 25 years, I can say that at least I had great luck with my D-Link.
It probably still runs.
This one, I could plug this in right now, and because I think the power cord ran out. That's why the power cord fell out. That's why it wasn't working right. I mean, I could plug it back in and it'll still work. This thing will probably work for another 15 years. So you got those two. So that's my museum pick, the Dub H7, which coincidentally is also my tech pick, the Dub H7, or the 4-port USB 3 super speed version, or the TP-Link UH700. It will also be my tech pick. So one of those will do it. USB hubs for one and all. Rich, how many would you like for Christmas?
Oh, stuff my stocking, please.
Now I also we also alluded to this last week, and I don't want to forget. But Rich, you have a new special guest in your house.
Oh, well, I don't believe he's arrived just yet.
Oh, he's not. He was supposed to be there by today. I'm annoyed. I sent it. It was supposed to be 2 days.
Oh,
well, hopefully he's not lost in shipping.
Yeah.
Hey, free shipping. See, I can make anything positive.
I'll have to check the tracking. Okay, well, we'll show him off next week. We'll save that surprise. All right, so that wraps up my picks. Rich, tell us what has been and what will be.
Well, if you want to know what's been in the week that was here, what you want to do is go to channelpronetwork.com every Friday and check out our In Case You Missed It post written by our own James Gaskin. And this week he's going to be telling you a little bit about an interesting alliance between Malwarebytes and Untangle in the security realm. We've been talking about that a whole bunch. Some interesting new backup capabilities for Microsoft Azure. Keep an eye on backup and security capabilities in Azure. I think there are a lot of vendors in those fields who might get disrupted at some point in the next few years. And then James will have a little information for you about an item some of you may have seen in the media about a guy I like to call the Grinch Slayer. And I'll just kind of leave it at that, except to say the two words glitter bomb. If you haven't heard about the glitter bomb yet, check out In Case You Missed It on Friday, and you'll see what we're talking about here. As for next week, really not a whole lot going on next week because of the holiday. Now, I think I said that in our last episode, and then Kaseya bought IT Glue, so who the heck knows? Maybe some big story will break. But I think it's going to be a pretty slow news week, actually. And we should probably mention, Matt, that we will not be doing a live podcast next week, but 2 weeks from today, I believe that's January 3rd, we'll be back with episode 102.
Yeah. No live show next week due to the holiday. Most of us are going to be off, enjoying time with our families, playing with our Christmas presents that Santa leaves under the tree.
Dreamcast behind you,
and I'm busting out the Dreamcast, baby.
Sick.
Let's do it. I got a Virtual Boy up there too, Herman.
Listen, man, if you want to sell that, you just give me a shout.
Yeah, right. No, you'll have to pry that out of my cold, dead hands. Yeah, cool. So, Herman, thank you so much for joining us and being a guest host with us this week. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Where can, if people want to learn more about you, your vertical action, your social networks, why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you?
Well, you can find Vertical Action at verticalaction.com, verticalaxion.com. You can find out more about me and my books and marketing at hermanpool.com. Then if you are an IT person looking for an organization to join that you can get along with like-minded people, you can also check out that. I hope that's okay.
Of course.
I heard you say you're going to drop links later. I was like, I'm going to save them time. So yeah, be sure to check us out. And then if you need us on social media, it's facebook.com/get noticed, make money.
That's make money. That everybody loves the sound of that. So thank you again. And we'll definitely put those links in the show notes pages, and we'll put a link to your book in there as well.
Appreciate that.
No problem. Rich, if people wanted to find us on the social networks, we're ChannelPro Network on Facebook, at ChannelPro SMB on Twitter. If you want to follow me, I'm at Matt Whitlock on Twitter. Rich, you are?
At Rich Free.
At Rich Free. So if you also want to subscribe, that is one of the best ways to be on top of ChannelPro Weekly. You can subscribe here if at YouTube. But you can subscribe to ChannelPro Network on YouTube and this playlist, the ChannelPro Weekly playlist, and you can be notified when new shows become available. The audio podcast is very popular, still one of the great ways to listen to podcasts. If you want that, we still have our audio version going out each and every time we do a show. That's available on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere podcasts are aggregated. With the exception of Spotify, their AI does not allow outside communications. Apparently, it's very strange.
That's
yeah, it is odd. Unless you like subscribe to like a podcast service, it's like no one works in Spotify.
One of the things I learned about YouTube is when you subscribe, it's important to subscribe, but make sure to hit that bell so you get all the notifications.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got to hit the bell now, because now subscribing isn't enough. Now you have to say, I want to subscribe and know about things that I'm subscribing to. So got to ring the bell, maybe, make a little ding sound while you do it. Make it fun. So do that. If you have your own favorite podcast app, we have an RSS link for our podcast. You can drop that in just about any app, desktop program, whatever, and episodes will fly down to you as they become available. So on behalf of Mr. Freeman, and thanks again to Herman from Vertical Action
glad to be with you guys.
From joining us. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Live ChannelPro Weekly episode number 102. Thank you so much. We'll see you all then.